Will Ho-Oh be the most broken release Pokemon Unite has ever seen? There are some things that point to yes, but then we have to compare it to one of the other most broken releases, Mewtwo Y. Which one will take the cake for the most overpowered Pokemon of all time? Let's get into it. First, I feel like we have to set the stage for what's going to be happening right here. I'm going to try to decide whether or not Ho-Oh or Mewtwo will be more broken, and a few things are going to happen here. First, Jake, your resident content cowboy, yeehaw. Second, I don't know what state Ho-Oh is going to release in. Now, if you want to compare it to Miraidon was extremely good upon release. Electro Drift, Parabolic Charge, still unbelievably good. Charge Beam and Thunder, however, were dummy broken, and they got a pretty quick nerf. Miraidon, I would say, is probably not as busted as Mewtwo Y. Mewtwo Y probably a little more busted than Mewtwo X. Not Mewtwo X that was nerfed in 6 hours, by the way. I don't know if we remember that at all, but that was insane. But the Mewtwo X that we had to deal with after that. And then you have Zacian. I would say on the pillars of EX, it probably goes Mewtwo Y, Zacian, Miraidon, Mewtwo X. Something like that. But there's no question that these have all been profoundly broken. I'm going to compare Ho-Oh to Mewtwo Y because why? It's the best. Now, compared to Mewtwo Y's current state, I think Ho-Oh is going to be more powerful, but these are very different Pokemon. One is an attacker, the other is a defender, and they are set up to be broken in very different ways. However, they both have moves and abilities and Unite moves that are phenomenally broken. Ain't that fun? Let's start with what's overpowered about these two Pokemon. For Ho-Oh, we have insane survivability. It is going to be so difficult to take this thing down. We also have the fact that this Pokemon does not evolve, neither does Mewtwo. That's just a nice little point in their direction. We have that Ho-Oh does not burn any Eos energy, while Mewtwo Y does burn Eos energy when it megas. We also have early moves for Ho-Oh. This is true of Mewtwo Y as well. Mewtwo Y gets a ton of early moves. It does burn some Eos energy, but only when it megas and becomes unbelievably powerful. Incredibly strong base kit for Ho-Oh, to be sure. With Mewtwo, it's an A-presser, it's super simple, and its moves are dumb. In fact, I would say its moves are more dumb and broken than a lot of Ho-Ohs for different reasons. So if you take a look at Ho-Oh, you have moves like Flamethrower, which is pretty good, but you actually have to aim it, even though it's not too difficult. You have Fly, which is incredible, gives you 3 boosted attacks, but it doesn't do absurd damage yet. We have Sky Attack, which can be interrupted, and I should mention Flamethrower, which can be interrupted. You also have Fire Spin, which to me feels like the most broken part of this Pokemon's kit. A massive shield, huge burst damage, slowing the enemies, and redirecting damage from allies. This is still to be seen how it's going to affect things, but it's pretty incredible. I'll also say that Ho-Oh has multiple things inside of its kit that regenerate its health. In fact, its passive regenerates health essentially all the time, except when you're battling enemy Pokemon. Even when you're fighting wild Pokemon, it has a passive that is regenerating its health. And then, of course, it has its Unite move. A Unite move that has the ability to revive not just one, but multiple members of your team. We'll get to that more in a minute. For Mewtwo, we of course have the mindless A-pressing. We have a Mega Gauge that charges very, very fast and then makes the Pokemon insane, dealing incredible splash damage at range that also slows opponents, and at the same time, when it megas, all of its stats increase. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It also has moves that are really tough to counter and make it so that Mewtwo Y is extremely difficult to punish. Future Sight creates an incredible amount of distance between you and an enemy. You basically push them away. Also kind of like shoving them and stunning them for a moment. And then at the same time, you will do extra damage to them based on the amount of damage you do while the Future Sight is on them. It's really crazy. And then you have something like Psyshock. Psyshock is nuts. Is it Psyshock? Is my brain not working, or is it Psybeam? Hold on. I feel like my brain is not actually working here. It was neither. It was Psystrike. Ding! Psystrike is crazy. It makes you unstoppable when you are using it, which basically negates any crowd control, any way to shut this thing down. You also have Teleport that will increase your damage, and you can use it twice to get away from a situation. You have Recover, which at release, mind you, which is what we're talking about, was completely busted. It would charge your Mega Gauge outside of combat in a huge way. You'd basically walk into every single fight with a Mega. You also have to remember that on release, Mewtwo Y had a substantial crit rate. So all this was happening while this Pokemon was critically hitting you, and its Unite move did even more damage. Mewtwo Y's Unite move was a global Unite that can take objectives, that can take wild Pokemon, and can KO enemies on the enemy team and also stun them. And I think it also lowers defenses. Like, it's so stupid. What a stupid move. Yeah, it decreases their special defense. It's like, it's so crazy. Mewtwo Y on release was so crazy. A truly miserable time to play this game. So I've talked a lot about Mewtwo Y's kit, and I think without question, this was unbelievably broken, and one of the most broken things about it was its simplicity. This was a Pokemon that allowed players who had no idea what was going on to win matches. They were basically playing Diablo while we were all playing Pokemon Unite. They were just walking around, pressing A, and they're like, hey, there's that Dodrio that I keep seeing. That's gone. Hey, there's some more enemy team members. I'm just gonna use my Unite that KOs them all instantly. Mewtwo Y was unbelievably broken. Now, let's talk about what is unbelievably broken about HoOh, and without question, its Unite move is broken. Probably the most broken Unite move the game has ever had, but will it line up to be as powerful as Mewtwo Y given all of the things Mewtwo Y can do? And that really is the question at hand. Will this Unite move that can revive multiple allies be more impactful than how dummy broken Mewtwo Y was? And I think in the high end, the answer will be yes. And in the low end, the answer will be probably not. Again, not knowing what power level HoOh releases at. But let's talk about this Unite. With the ability to resurrect multiple allies, you now have the ability to redo not only multiple important fights in the match, but the most important fight inside the entire game, inside Pokemon Unite. You have to understand that whichever team gets Rayquaza probably has an 85% chance or so to win the match. Now, this is often because you also won a massive team fight there. It's not usually that you steal Rayquaza with 5 enemies up and you somehow still win the game. It's more often though, if you wipe the enemy at Ray and you take Ray, that's probably 95% you win the game. Now, imagine this. You're getting into a fight at Rayquaza. All of your allies go down. And then you have the opportunity to bring the entirety of your team back with 50% health, and something that you may notice in some of this footage where we're showing HoOh, there is a brief period where you are invulnerable, the allies you bring back, almost like you brought them back from the home goal zone, but it doesn't last that long. This is enough time to use any move, any Unite move, anything that you didn't get a chance to use, you now have the ability to do that now. So let's say the enemy got the jump on you, right? And they were able to KO multiple members of your team before you used your Unite moves, but boom, you HoOh Unite, you bring them back, and now they have those Unites and you do not. And they also are invulnerable for a moment. Perhaps you throw a move and it was the wrong time to throw it. You miss with your future sight from Gardevoir or something like that. And now all of a sudden, your cooldown is down and they are back and slightly invulnerable, ready to use a powerful move. This leads me to think that in the high end, like on the top level play, this will be more broken than Mewtwo Y. It's giving you another bite at the apple, another opportunity to fight over the biggest win condition that is possible in the game, Rayquaza, and if you win this fight, you almost always win the match. However, on the low end, I think HoOh will be more difficult to use. Players will not use its Unite move in good situations. They will get themselves caught out and get themselves KO'd before they're able to use their Unite. And in most cases, actually, I think Mewtwo Y, given it was so simple to use. It's just so simple to press the A button, turn into a weirder looking, more Frieza-like Mewtwo Y, and start destroying everything on the map. Because of its ease of use, I think we'll see a higher win rate on Mewtwo Y's release than we will on HoOh. At the same time, I think from more experienced players, especially players, you know, in a trio or a 5-stack or something like that, I think HoOh would be profoundly broken, because that level of communication and the ability to, again, have another take at the biggest fight in the game will more often than not lead to victory, as opposed to something just being dummy OP. Most of our games, we're actually going to be probably better off than having Mewtwo Y, but in some of our games, we've got a player on the enemy team or a player on your team who has enough game knowledge to use HoOh correctly and really sets your team up for not guaranteed success, but at least another shot to win the match. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think is going to be more powerful? Release Mewtwo Y or release HoOh? And something to remember is this. On the public test server, Mewtwo Y was buffed before release. So who knows how strong HoOh will release. I have a pretty good feeling it will be the best Pokemon in the game upon release, and I don't think it will be particularly close. However, the same could be said for Mewtwo Y, Mewtwo X, Zacian, and Miraidon. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. EX Pokemon are a nightmare and a plague sent down to this earth, and they're also fairly cool, which is unfortunate because I do want to play this thing. And at the same time, I wish it didn't do what it does. Thanks for watching. I love you. We did it.